Food security is the state of having access to a reliable quantity of nutritious, affordable food. Very recently, we saw the security of one of our food sources decline, the poultry industry. So chicken prices started going up and the government stepped in with proactive measures. What they did was to impose a price ceiling and to impose a ban on exports of poultry. Sounds like what the government should do, right? Apparently not. Prices are still going up and the supply in the local market has not increased. So what the heck's going on? Dr. Carmelo, let's start at the beginning. Why were the prices of chicken going up?
Well, there are two elements, and I will briefly stop on the first one because it's not really too related on the topic, which is the general inflationary pressures that we are experiencing worldwide because of the massive injection of money that we experienced over the past 2 years. So that affects, so chicken is not alien from inflation. So that monetary element is there. Then there is something more specifically related to the food industry and peculiarly to poultry in Malaysia, which is also, however, related to what happened in the past 2 years and in particular with lockdowns. So it all goes back to demand and supply. So when the lockdown started, both demand and supply went down. But at the demand side, this meant people not going out to eat, so less demand from restaurants, hotels closed down, tourists not coming in, and therefore a generalized lower demand for chicken. But how do you translate these at the supply side? It's much more radical than that. So it means that an industry that is structured to produce 100, all of a sudden it has to produce 50. What does it mean? It means that you have to fire workers, shut down plants, you don't buy any more raw materials, and etc., etc. So the adjustment at the supply side is slower, but it's also much more radical. Now, 1st of April, everything gets back to normal. We are all waiting to go out and eat finally in our favorite restaurants, if they're still open. Hotels start to welcome back tourists. Demand for chicken goes up and goes up very fast. But for the supply to catch up with demand, it takes time. You need to buy new machines, you need to replenish your stock of raw materials, you need to hire workers, and we know that that is quite challenging now. So in this period in which the demand is above the supply, we experience price tensions. It is really a textbook situation, I would say.
And so what did the price ceiling actually do to the market?
The price ceilings that seems a move in order to help and support consumers that cannot afford chicken is a detrimental policy, because rather than getting you cheaper products, get you no products at all. So I mentioned that the supply side in this moment need to catch up to meet demand, and price will readjust only when the supply will be able to meet the increased demand. At that moment, prices will cool down. But in order for this to happen, we need a temporary period of high prices, and high prices signal to the supply that is convenient to invest to increase supply, to increase production. Price ceilings that are set below the market level are going in the opposite direction, are telling to the supply it doesn't make sense for you to produce more. So you have businesses that eventually are stopping down, and you have less and less chicken rather than more. So again, you don't get cheaper chicken, you get no chicken. And then the situation that we are experiencing now with the shortages. So unfortunately, we need that moment of high prices to get back into a market condition, into an equilibrium condition. If we didn't want to experience this, we should have avoided lockdown in the first place.
Absolutely. So the price ceiling had the opposite effect.
Absolutely.
And why didn't the ban on poultry export increase the supply locally?
For the same reasons. Basically, now you are taking out profit opportunities from local producers, and they start to look at the external markets, at the foreign markets. But then you shut down also that market. So again, you are going to get less and less production. And also there is actually quite a lot of political bias behind this ban, because the quantity of chicken that is actually exported is really a very tiny fraction of the total chicken production in the country. We are talking about 5 to 6%. So it's more of a demagogic measure than an actually economically motivated policy.
And you've said before that this has actually damaged our export market, because now Singapore is buying 10 times the amount, is it, from Thailand?
Absolutely. So basically, Singapore was importing, I think, 1/3 of their chicken from Malaysia and 70% of their eggs from Malaysia. Now, what can Singapore do? They don't stay there and wait for us. They look in the region, and we have just next door Thailand, which is one of the biggest poultry producers in the world, and it is the home base of one of the biggest poultry producer in the world called Charo and Popcorn. So in the moment in which Singapore is going to Thailand to source its chicken, it's very difficult for Malaysia to get back that market. So we are going to harm more our local producers and to get even less production domestically. So all these policies, they can be very well intentioned, but they are only producing damages. I often make this example. You can jump out of a window thinking that you can fly, but there is something you cannot ignore, that is the gravity force. In economics is the same. You can throw out policies with certain intentions, so flying, but if you ignore gravity force, the economic forces at play, then you are only producing a disaster.
Why do you think that abolishing APs will strengthen our food security?
Well, because that is the only measure that goes in the direction that we need. What do we need for prices to cool down? More supply. Abolishing and making it easier to import chicken from abroad is a way to increase supply. Where we can't face production domestically, we need to be able to go easily outside and source from outside. But here we have again the problem of price ceilings. Who is going to import chicken if when you go to the market you cannot sell it in a profitable way? So the AP removals, which is a good measure, doesn't work together with the price ceiling. So it will be ineffective as far as price ceilings are there.
So you were saying that the government should remove the price ceiling, should abolish APs altogether, and should lift the export on poultry, should lift the ban on poultry exports. Sounds like you're saying the government shouldn't do anything at all.
Well, I have to say that in many cases, the less the government does, the best it is for the economy. I already explained a lot of unintended consequences in these well-hearted policies. So the market is not perfect, but can produce a better result at a faster speed. The government is only prolonging the agony. So given the kind of perspective that the government has on the economic system, is better for all of us they do as less as possible.
And is this your suggestion, right? Not to raise, your suggestion not to put in a price ceiling, not to ban exports, not to have APs for food. Is this something that should be applied across the whole agriculture industry to improve our food security?
I think yes, indeed, this is an opportunity. We have discussed about food security a lot. We have discussed about raising local production. We need to rationalize our production, removing, in example, what we have, the program of subsidies on rice. You know, everybody is praising the technological level, the advancement level of our poultry industry, which is one of the most advanced in the region, if not the most advanced indeed. But this happened precisely because there was no government control. So the industry could grow, rationalize, consolidate, step up by itself, following market signals. All the industries, all the other industries that have been lacking behind, then they are the industries that have been controlled somehow by the government. So if we want indeed to step up in terms of food security, we need more market and less control.
Time and again, we see that the government should step out of the way and allow market forces to work freely. If we want to increase our food security, a free market unshackled by price ceilings, export bans and APs is necessary, and it should be done yesterday.